There was another seismic shift in voting rights last Friday after the Virginia Supreme Court struck down a redistricting map that had been approved by Virginia voters. Okay, they said, this is what we want. They came in and said, no, that's not what you want. We're changing it. So the ruling now gives Republicans a big boost as we approach the midterms. And Democrats are a little pissed. Take a look.
What the Virginia Supreme Court did was not only wrong, it was disgraceful. They basically said, hey, Virginia, spend all this taxpayers' money holding an election, do all this stuff, and oh, by the way, just kidding, that election didn't count. The court could have stopped this by not having the election in the first place. They suckered the people of Virginia.
As the Supreme Court, to the Reverend's point in Virginia, overturned the maps 10-1 to literally draw Black Americans out of power.
This is everybody's fight right now. This isn't just Black people's fight.
A new generation of Americans have to show up, stand up, speak up, fight, get into good trouble to usher in an era of progress.
I mean, it's kind of crazy when the party says, you know, we care about voters' rights and, you know, people are cheating and we're in there, we're going to make sure they don't. And then they kind of cheat. This feels like a cheat. So how much is this ruling going to impact future elections? It should remind everybody that your state makes the decision about what goes on. And what this is supposed to do is make you think, it's not even worth voting. It is always worth voting. It is always, always, always worth voting. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I come from the place of I 100% always, any day of the week, oppose partisan gerrymandering. I think it's bad for America. I think we talk a lot about democracy and the importance of representation. And I think when both sides get in the mud and decide to play, nobody wins, and both decide to get into this. But here's the problem with me. I think Ted Lieu hit it in the clip. This was very foreseeable. This was kind of a technicality that the Supreme Court decided to get hung up on. He even kind of alludes to the fact that they maybe wouldn't have even brought it up in the first place because it wouldn't pass. And Donald Trump has been conveying for the last decade that he plans to do this, that he wanted state assemblies to redraw their congressional maps, to create more Republican seats. What it becomes is a race to the bottom, and right now Trump and his team are playing like three-dimensional chess, and it feels like the Dems are just not playing that well. In my opinion, no one should be doing it. I think it's bad. I'm going to reiterate that over and over. It's why you have hyper-polarized partisan districts where you can't vote people out. But it just feels like Democrats once again getting outmaneuvered. And I think it's why people throw up their hands and feel like their vote doesn't count.
Well, the issue here was the state Supreme Court, though. When I first read the headline on the heels of the loss a week ago with the Louisiana, when they said you can't use race when countering, and it felt like it was absolutely disenfranchising tons of voters. I went and I saw the headline and I thought, here we go again. But then when you read into the weeds on this one, it was foreseeable. So the lower courts had already ruled that this was not going to be able to pass. And the Supreme Court of the state overruled it and said, no, let it go forward. Courts are allowed to do that. The problem with that is the optics are awful right now as we're watching partisan divide and gerrymandering. And the thing I also noticed is we talk often about how both parties do it. The difference is the Republicans often do it, and this happened in Texas, Missouri, North Carolina, Florida, and Tennessee. They do it through the officials at the top, the GOP. When the Democrats have done it, they at least throw it out to the people and say, what do you think of this? And I tend to think if there's a lesser evil, that's the one. Well, you want the voters doing this.
And you see, so the issue in this Virginia-specific issue is the Supreme Court. But the real issue here is that Donald Trump is a terrible precedent who most Americans disapprove of right now. His approval ratings are in the basement. He knows he's going to lose the House, so he started last year telling Texas expressly to redraw their congressional map. So I don't know that we should be both citing this, or I know we shouldn't be both citing this, because this would have never happened but for Texas being the first to draw blood and redistricting to give Republicans 5 new seats. Democrats have been left in a position of having to react to that first stupid thing and trying to catch up, which they're not doing. and they just don't have they just are not doing it. But the reason this is happening is because Trump knows he's going to lose the House, which means there will finally be oversight and accountability of the abuses of power by his misadministration. And that is why he's trying to change the rules in the middle of the game and give himself more Republican districts. And it's going to be a backlash because voters don't have to take it and are not going to take it. And they can redraw everything. What they can't redraw is what voters do with their God-given right to vote. So we're going to show up in record numbers, and we're not going to let them rig these elections.
I hope that's true. I think it's tough when you do gerrymander. I think it's tough because you do dilute the black vote, and people are saying, I've read places where people are saying, well, this is not about race. If race is sort of, if black people are the backbone of the Democratic Party and you're gerrymandering on a partisan basis for the Republicans, of course it's about race. It's about diluting the black vote. That's 100% what it's about. And when it comes to, you say it's a race to the bottom, it is a race to the bottom, but the Republicans started that race. They started that race in Texas, and then they continued it and continued it and continued it, and we just saw it in Tennessee. And so what I do appreciate about and in Florida, what I do appreciate about the Democrats is they're finally realizing that the Republicans are not playing by the rules, that they're drafting their own rules, and it's time for the Democrats to play by those new rules. And that's what they have tried to do. So instead of going, as Sarah, you say, to sort of the top, because they don't have a lot of states where they are, especially in the South, where they rule sort of the legislature, they decided to take it to the people. I think that's the right way to try to fight this. So you go to California, you go to Virginia, and now the Republicans did something that I don't think the Democrats expected. The Republicans decided to overturn the rule of the people. So you know what I think the Democrats need to do? They need to go to New York and get those extra seats. They need to redistrict. They need to redistrict in a couple of states, in New Jersey, Illinois, Maryland. Redistrict, get your 10 to 20 seats, and then we will get the oversight that we do need, because the Republicans are not playing fair, and now it's time to meet them where they are.
But what's remarkable is I actually think the likelihood of the Senate going for Democrats is it's more likely that it could go for Democrats, which I haven't thought so up until this point. Elections should be about one voter showing up, casting their vote, and it mattering. And I think we're going to feel the consequences for decades if we allow this to just becoming a race to the bottom.
Here's the big problem. People died for this. People died to get this vote, to be able to vote in this country. Why? Because we weren't considered American citizens. So they were fine denying us the right to vote. They did it to women as well, but they did it to black people. And to Asian folks. There's a whole plethora of people who have gone down this road. Well, this road always ends in the same place. Change comes. Because people don't like when you take away their rights. That's why they fought for them. That's the thing that I think that these folks that in Washington don't understand. Many of these things were put in place because it wasn't getting done. When stuff isn't getting done, you reelect different people, and then you make the changes you need to make. That is what's going to happen. And it's a pain in the behind that this is how we have to do it, because if you just trusted the people who are Republicans to come out and made this a fair fight, this wouldn't be a problem. But the minute you start trying to maneuver it, it becomes an issue. And then it's this one-upmanship that you're talking about. And it's a pain because one vote, one person. That is what the country was based on. Your vote counts. Don't let them make you think it doesn't. Get out there. Now you got to get out there.